Nonsensical Pittsburgh Steelers talk. Every single week we take that walk through the history, the present, and the future bright. Steel City stories shining ever so light. Yeah, Viking, Donkey, Gingy, Lasker, a legendary crew. Talking Steelers football through and through.
Donk Nation, Jackson, Janet's greetings, and welcome to your Daily Dose of Donkey Ginger. It's your boy, the Viking Donkey, bringing you a solo recap of the Steelers' shutout loss to the Jets in preseason week 2. Really struggled this week, it's why it's a little later video, on what to talk about here, because things didn't look good. Things looked terribly terrible, and I don't know how to feel about that. It's a preseason game where a lot of players who aren't going to make this team are playing, so I don't want to be overly critical, especially of those guys who are way bottom of the roster, guys who don't have a chance of making this team. So I guess we'll start by saying, watching the semi-first team offense, obviously missing players like TJ and Joey Porter Jr. and the likes, right? Big-time players, Cam Hayward, not playing. But watching the Jets and Geno Smith just carve apart what was the best defense the Steelers would put out there in the one series he played was very disappointing to see. Expected a little more production out of those guys, so that's probably the biggest disappointment. Then afterwards, watching some fringe roster guys or guys who need to step up maybe into a bigger role, like Rashawn Jenkins come in and get a sack, was probably the highest up point for me, was seeing that happen, because Jenkins is the guy who's probably going to see some action in safety, whether it be limited action or big action. He was clearly brought in to be that guy, and watching him play decent there was good to see. So I don't know how to look at this. I guess we'll start with, to me, the biggest winner of the whole football game was Mason Rudolph, because the two young guys kind of both showed that they might have more potential, but they do not have what it takes to be the current backup on a team that is trying to win football games and make the playoffs. If for some reason Rodgers has to miss a couple starts this year, neither one of those guys are what you want to see if you watch this game. I mean, Drew Aller against a four-string defense, he showed the bright points of why he has potential, right? There is the big arm, the ability to get out of sacks, the little slight mobility that he does possess. All of that was there. All of that showed, and it was good to see from that. But then he also showed the limitations. I mean, a lot of the incompletions happened because he couldn't get off of his first read, holding the ball too long in the pocket. As soon as the pass rush comes, looking at the pass rush, which you saw both him and Will Howard struggle with. But I wanted to talk about Aller, because Aller, I saw the positives of why he was drafted. You saw the big arm, the escapability in that there. Now, when we get to Will Howard, I saw a little bit of a lack of arm strength. I know you could argue the 2 interceptions are that, but the thing is, with Drew Aller, I know he struggles reading a defense, but he has the big arm, and that's what you hope can make up for it. Try to play that Carson Wentz type role for a little while, where you can overcome the inability to read a defense if you have like the Carson Wentz arm strength. Will Howard doesn't have that, and him not being able to read disguised coverages, make bad decisions, those are just things you can't do. And when you're a team like the Steelers, is he really, maybe he develops into a good backup, but seeing him in college and watching him his first couple games in the preseason, you don't see NFL starter qualities in him. And do you really waste an extra quarterback spot on a guy whose upside is a backup? I really feel like Will Howard did himself some disservice in this game. And I know his first game was good. I'm not going to put that aside. But even in that first game, he didn't do anything where you're like, wow, that's NFL starter ability, right? Like, yeah, he was accurate with the ball on those mid-range throws. Yeah, the team was progressing down the field well. But you didn't see him have to make those challenging throws. You didn't see him have to avoid the pass rush much. And you didn't see him have to really get off of his first read. So Will Howard, to me, is by far the biggest loser. Biggest winner is Mason Rudolph, who didn't play. And by the way, calling him the biggest loser from this game is kind of hard, because, my God, Broderick Jones doesn't even look like he deserves a roster spot. Getting absolutely smoked by Bailey early in the game, and then getting run by fifth-string defensive ends for 2 straight weeks it's not good enough. This offensive line has me really nervous. Not a whole lot of positives to say there. Receiving cores, no one stood out, and that might be a big loss for Roman Wilson because at some point he has to stand out to make this team. I know we've heard about how good he was in camp, but really not standing out in any of the games, kind of a problem. Tight ends, we didn't see any of the ones who really matter. I mean, Robert Tonyan did veteran things like he always did. Nokowski, the H-back, whatever you want to call him, hybrid guy, he made a little bit of plays where I'm like, you know what? That Hayward role looks like this kid can fill it and will fill it fine. So, okay with him there. Probably a slight win for him and looking good for a roster spot. Running back wise, really not seeing Travis Homer was kind of surprising. Lou Nichols looked like Lou Nichols, which is I guess good for him at this point because Caleb Johnson, while the numbers don't look bad, if you watch the game, Caleb Johnson is just slow. There's no way around it. Like he makes Najee Harris look fast, and I think that's a big problem for him. I don't know. The Steelers don't like to cut bait with early draft picks this quickly. Dree Archer's a great example of that, but it looks bad. And then we'll go talking early draft picks. Caden Wetchin, when you're supposed to be only a punt returner and you bobble a punt and you fumble a punt in the same game, I mean, that has to hurt his roster spot ability, especially when you consider the Steelers might want to keep more receivers now because they already have 3 guaranteed at the top. If you think Skoronek's the best gunner, that's 4. Can you really waste 2 receivers when you have a rookie and a couple guys who have injury histories? Can you really waste a receiver spot on a guy who's a special team only guy when he's not even making a difference in special teams? I think Wetchin took a huge hit this time. Like I said, offensive line was terrible, so that covers the offense side. Defensively, not a whole heck of a lot to say from this front 7. Those end of the roster defensive ends are exactly that. I mean, you have the first 4 set pretty good. You know, Harmon, Black, Hayward, Benton, right? Those guys look fine. They look like they're set. They look like they're going to be. The rest of those guys look like fringe roster guys and not starter material. And I guess that bodes well for Dean Lowry, as he's a veteran who has a bunch of success in the past to put behind his name, where some of the others don't generate that. But really, no one on the defensive line this game stepped up. There were a couple last week, and I talked about them, but this week, no one from the line stepped up. Linebacker-wise, again, I was a little disappointed with the production out there from the outside linebackers. I think Jack Sawyer had probably the best game of the bunch there. He almost had a chance where he almost had a pick 6 on a good upfield rush on what was a screen pass. So that's all I have to say about them. They're don't want to beat down a bunch of guys who aren't roster guys. I mean, Julius Westloff, the German guy in the international program we've had for a while, he's starting to look better every year. I mean, I would say he's almost like borderline normal practice squad good at this point, which is a huge upgrade from where he's been. So I want to give a kudos to him just for that right there, the step up that we've seen from him. When we talk other players here, middle linebacker Malik Harrison looks like he's going to be in trouble because Bruner probably had the best 2-game stretch I've seen from the Steelers. Is a young Bruner playing there in the middle. Good to see from him. And bringing back a Landon Roberts and then watching him downhill run absolutely knock people off the ground like he had before. We know he can't cover, but downhill backer, he's pretty good. Looks like a better version of Malik Harrison. And if they get rid of Harrison, I believe they save some money on the cap. So Landon Roberts probably a cheaper place-for-place replacement there. And then secondary-wise, whoever got beat on that last touchdown, I think it was Porter maybe, that was an ugly play. He got handsy and got beat a couple times in the game. Really, nothing going to beat down there, though. No starters looked bad. No fringe roster guys looked bad because really almost none of them played in the secondary. Kicking game-wise, obviously, Boswell's our kicker for a reason. We see a missed field goal from 40 yards. That's the reason. These new guys aren't going to take the spot. And Cam Johnson looked pretty good kicking the ball out there. I think it was about a 50-yard average on the punts. So good to see there. All in all, the grade for the game was it's what you expect when you don't play your good ones. You'd like to see more push from these fringe guys to roster spots. But really, this was kind of a chalk game where if you were already a rostered person, you feel good about it because none of the people who aren't rostered pushed you. And Certain guys who are backups who didn't play at all are like, my backup role is now solidified and I didn't even have to do anything for it. Really disappointing game for me because I wanted to see some potential from some of these undrafted or lower roster guys, undrafted rookies or lower roster guys who needed a really big push. I wanted to see them make it, and it just didn't feel like anyone made it. Except if you were considering Bruner going into the year, he played good on special teams last year and was an okay villain. If you considered his roster spot was up in the air, I think he's the one guy you can say absolutely showed he deserves a roster spot. And it comes from the defense side of the ball. I was really hoping the offense side of the ball, we'd see some of these offensive linemen push for starter roles, but instead what we're seeing is starters looking like they belong in backup roles. Definitely not what you want to see. We'll end it there. Let me know what you thought about the preseason game. If there's any people I missed, any performances I should have pointed out that were immaculate above or terrible beyond that I just didn't talk about, I'd love to hear. Love to have the conversation. But for now, I'll go to shout outs. And my shout out this week's got to be Bruner, dude. 2 straight games in the preseason, absolutely putting yourself out there as a person who has to be considered. And with the Steelers, the middle linebackers last year played okay, but both Queen and Wilson showed some issues, whether it was in run stopping for Wilson or covering for Queen. Bruner keeps playing the way he does. He has a chance to get into that rotation of players getting meaningful snaps, and I think that's really cool. So that's who I'm going to give a shout out here too. A guy who we drafted purely as a special teamers has really developed well in his 2 years here, and you'll love to see it. Now I'll let you know I'm the Viking Donkey. That's Viking_Donkey at Twitch or Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey or Ginger. It's an awesome YouTube channel where you get this content. Be sure to tune in. We should have Gingy back next week. Hopefully Laskers comes back sometime soon. And we'll have a full show. We'll keep it, nonsensical because that's the way we like to do it. But Donk Nation, Steelers Nation, love y'all. Wave them if you got them. Here we go.